One of the problems I usually see a lot of people struggle with when they're trying to do SaaS pricing is that it's a complicated question. I would argue that there is a simple way to try and cut through this complexity by actually answering a series of questions in a specific sequence. And here it is. So the first question that you want to answer or establish is, what are we actually able to do? What is our capability from a technical standpoint? And maybe adding some services like, okay, so our software technically or functionally can do this, and we can add on some professional services or some training or do some integration and so forth. So we expand the scope of our capability from a purely functional perspective. This is your capability. If you're a railroad, your capability is to take things from A to B cheaply, quickly, and efficiently, right? Okay, don't go further than that. The next question that you want to answer is, who could we do this for? And are these who's distinct categories or just one big fuzzy category? For trains, actually, I would argue they're quite distinct because you can do passenger transportation and you can do freight transportation. These are quite different. Without even have to go through a whole design process, you can tell, well, passengers has to do something with selling seats and taking people from station to station, while freight transportation is something about selling 40 or 20-foot containers, maybe with cooling and insurance and loading and offloading. So we can tell that the whole product experience and use case and customer segment are different for these two categories, which means that we might want to create different product and pricing for each of them, so we separate them in different fence. Now, this makes the next step easier, the product or the packaging fence, which is, okay, so for passengers, what are we trying to sell them? And this can come into what I call core product. This would be a seat, and we could divide this into tiers, so first, second, third class seats, and add-ons, which is I can buy a sandwich on the train, I can buy maybe a seat reservation, maybe I can buy a taxi to and from the station, and so forth. But core product and add-ons. Over in freight, this might look something like, well, I get space on a wagon, so 20 or 40-foot containers, and my add-ons might be something like loading and insurance and so forth. Again, core product and add-on. The product dimension derives from the fencing dimension, and you can't answer the product dimension until you have identified the fencing dimension. Now that you actually have the product dimension in space, you can go to the pricing model dimension, which is, okay, so for passengers, for core product seats, how are we going to price this? Not how much, how. How would be something like, well, the longer you go, the more you pay. So a price per mile, price per station travel, something like that. And if I'm a first class, I pay more for those miles than if I'm a third class. And then the add-ons can have individual pricing models. The sandwich is a flat fee, presumably, $3 for a sandwich, a cup of coffee. The seat reservation might also be a flat fee, to and from airport transportation, depending on where you want to be picked up. Same thing goes for the freight transportation. Maybe the placement on the train is one thing, depending on if you take up 20 or 40 foot. Maybe the tonnage, the weight of the container matters. Maybe the electrical requirement, if you have a cool container, matters. Maybe the value of the good matters if you want to insure it. If it's dangerous goods, maybe there is a surcharge and so forth. So all of these combine into creating a pricing model that really fits the product. Again, the pricing model should fit the product should fit the fence, and so forth. By answering these questions in this order, in this sequence, you have a much more logical way of getting to answers that make sense. And then the final question that you ask is, how much? Okay, so I have passengers, I have second class, 100 miles at 2 stations. What should that cost? And you can come up with a price for that, which is whatever, $72 or something like that. And the sandwich should cost $15 and so forth. But then now you're attaching a very specific price point to a very specific product offering, to a very specific customer segment, which is much easier than just taking all of the variables into one big pot and try and stir it and say, what should our pricing be? The design process really follows the sequence. If you get the sequence wrong, you're lost. Okay, take care, guys.